who really want to have, and of course, this is not advertising, not advertising the EIS program, but maybe it's an advertising, but it's a great program. It's a 2-year fellowship, hands-on training in applied epidemiology. And so EIS officers are typically at the forefront of whatever is happening, right? When people are running out of anywhere, that's where EIS officers are always running into. And so as an EIS officer, you're deployed to hot zones to respond to public health emergencies, which could range from infectious disease outbreaks to, acts of God or natural disasters or whatever, right? So it provides you really cutting edge training in field epidemiology. So definitely look that up. They take a few number of international people every year. And so but I cannot emphasize enough how amazing the program it is for people who want to have a career in field epidemiology or just public health. This is the EIS logo. It's a very comical logo. It's a shoe with a hole in the sole, just to tell you that you're going to travel around the world until your shoes get holes. But that's the EIS logo. A lot has been written about the EIS, and you might be wondering, how does this have to do, what does this have to do with offline? Well, as an EIS officer, you deploy to areas of the world, sometimes where there's no internet. So the ability to collect data in offline settings is it's something you need to be very familiar with. And because, but the scenarios in which EIS officers work simulates what maybe some researchers in some resource limited settings might also have to deal with, right? Maybe you work in an area where there's no internet, and so it becomes very relevant too. And so whether you are dealing with outbreak response, and now we have several emerging or re-emerging infections from polio, which is endemic in Nigeria and other countries, to mpox, to new things always come up. Unfortunately, outbreaks sometimes tend to happen more in areas where where there's poverty, right? And sometimes those areas may not have internet, right? A large chunk of the world's population does not have access to the internet. So it becomes very imperative that we, think of how do we enable or empower data collection in such settings so that there's timely response to that. And so these are settings I've worked very extensively. For example, during Ebola, worked extensively in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, Guinea. And so I'll frame the problem of data collection in that kind of context where we need rapid data for rapid action, right? The quality of the policies we make or the decisions we make is a direct reflection of the quality of the data. And so it's not one of those settings where you say half bread is better than none. No. When it comes to data, bad data is better, it's worse than no data, right? So it's better we have no data at all and just based on expert opinion than to have like really bad data. And in the context of epidemics or public health outbreaks or any decision making in general, we need good data because we need every single day, we need to know, are we bending the curve or not? The goal is to get to zero, right? And so if the goal is to get to zero number of cases every day, we have to implement very robust surveillance. And so that data collection becomes important because lives are at stake, right, in that kind of context. And so if the goal is to get to zero, what do we do? Like, how do we get to zero if you work in that kind of environment? In my various roles as national lead for various outbreaks, your job is three things, and all of those things are related to offline data collection. You have to develop benchmarks of measures and standards. What are we measuring? You have to design epidemiologic studies to answer key questions. And then that data from 1 and 2 will help you to mount a robust public health response. So the bottom line is you need data to be able to take action. You don't just wake up and just take action, right? The action has to be driven by data, right? And And the data could be of various types. It could be active surveillance. Active surveillance, that in general, we'll talk about two types of data collection, active or passive surveillance. In active surveillance, you go to the data. For passive surveillance, data comes to you. It's not complicated at all. So, active surveillance might want to collect data. We go to homes. And again, most of these homes or areas may be off-grid, maybe in areas where there's no internet. But the issue of offline data collection is not only for poor countries. Even in even developed countries, you might have poor communities where there's no internet, right? So we still have to worry about offline data collection. It also may be that it's not that there's no internet. It may be that people just don't have, maybe they have a mobile device. They may not be in a rural area, they may be in an urban area, but maybe they don't have, maybe they have to pay for internet on I can't remember the name, what word they call it, data, right? Data on their internet. And so it becomes very, very expensive to pay for that. So you're not always guaranteed to have constant internet. So it's not, so I don't want us to think that the issue of offline data collection is only for rural areas or in the villages, because even in the urban areas, you might want to do some surveillance and you just don't have data on your device to be able to power that. And so it's something that obviously involves us, or sometimes you might go to areas offline, where you might have to interview people, collect data. The traditional approach has always been collecting data on paper, right? And that sometimes might be necessary. The problem with paper data collection is that you collect data on paper and then how do you process it, right? So for example, we need data, to generate reports on a daily basis. But when it's on paper, it becomes hard to, first of all, extract the data from the paper, to make sure it's accurate, to analyze it properly. And like I said earlier, those data points aren't just things we are just collecting for collection's sake, right? The drive policy. For example, we might be interested in knowing what symptoms are most predictive of, let's say, mortality, right? In Ebola patients. What, of course, not all symptoms are equal. Which symptoms should we be worried about the most? For example, that's just a very simple example of how data might drive policy, or how we act in the field, right? How we prioritize. If we come up with an algorithm that prioritizes, because we have limited resources, everything's always limited. So how do we make decisions? Decisions are tied to the data. Data is tied to how it's collected, right? And so again, just emphasizing the reason why it's so important for us to think of the manner in which we collect the data. Historically, we've always used Epinfo in the field. Epinfo is a software developed by CDC, and it's designed for a whole bunch of things. But the problem with Epinfo, based on just work we did in the field, was that Epinfo was never designed for very large outbreaks. If you have a small cluster, it's great for that. You can collect data on it. But when you now have a very large outbreak, like a sustained, very large, epidemic, not even an outbreak now, just when you have an epidemic, we realized very shortly that Epinfo was not adequate. This is a paper that was written by the Epinfo team primarily. And so they indicated that, however, challenges were encountered in accommodating the epidemic's unexpected large magnitude, addressing country-specific needs within one software product, and using the application and settings with limited internet access and information technology support. And so the bottom line was, with Epinfo, one of the challenges you had was you needed technical support, right? CDC staff had to always come and provide that support. That's not sustainable, because if you're doing your own response or outbreak data collection in another setting where you are just on your own, it becomes very hard to be able to use that kind of software sustainably. And so it becomes very important that we create software that is self-sufficient. You create a software that doesn't need another agency to come and help you maintain it, right? The software, so software that we're building for offline data collection must meet some minimum standards. One, self-sufficiency. We can't reasonably expect that CDC or any other agency will deploy their staff to come and assist you. It has to be something that you can figure out by yourself. So I think that's the most important requirement for any software that would be sustainable and that would really work in terms of gathering data in that kind of context. Number two is that it should really work offline. The VHF was branded as a software, and Ilana, if you're listening to this is not a criticism of a VHF. Ilana was my EIS classmate. um, the VHF system was labeled or tagged as as an offline software, but you realize very soon that it could not do that, right? So it's very important that a platform or a software that is designed for data collection in offline mode actually collects data in offline mode, right? And so that's very tricky because it's a non-trivial task to create a software that would reliably collect data in offline mode. So, but that is a very key requirement. Number three is that it has to be scalable. That I cannot emphasize that enough. And that was a huge limitation with the VHF system. And so we'll collect data on a particular day and the app will just crash, right? Because it was never designed to collect data on such a scale. And so the fact that an application works for 1,000 people doesn't mean it can work for 1 million people. So that's what we mean by scalability. And so those are some of the minimum requirements. And of course, there has to be data safety. If I'm collecting data from a platform, especially in the context of an outbreak, where I'm collecting data likely on people's names, their conditions, their addresses, that is a whole ton of private or identifiable information. We need to make sure that the application is safe, that the data we're collecting are safe, and we need to make sure that we can integrate that data with any web data we're collecting, because it's possible that you might be working in areas where there is internet and areas where there is no internet. There has to be a seamless manner where that data integrated seamlessly, right? With the data you collect from obviously, we don't want a scenario where you would collect the data in offline settings, and then when you come back, you now have to start doing any kind of manual work to start deploying that data you've collected to the cloud. So those are some of the minimum standards we'll expect from any data system, any platform that is supposed to play any key role in offline data systems, especially in the context of outbreaks or public health emergencies, because in that case, lives are at stake, and we need to act with obvious speed. So working in outbreak, someone who has worked in outbreak response in many countries, you realize that the biggest challenge you face is paper. Paper is an enemy of progress. And collecting data on paper forms is such a nightmare. You staple pins together, the staples come apart, and they get mixed up together. Because here's what typically will happen in a typical outbreak response. You collect data from individuals. Let's say I'm doing contact tracing or case investigation. I go to the individual's house, I administer the forms to them. But then they also have to go and get some data from the lab. They need to go and get some blood work done. So there's a separate form for that. The individual takes the form, travels to maybe the neighboring town where they have to go and get their blood work done. The form is completed, or they may even lose the form on the way. So but let's say the form was completed. Now we have two forms in different locations. Perhaps the staple pins got removed, and now we cannot even link the individual's laboratory data with their case investigation form, right? We've lost a ton of information, right? It's there's no way we can do that. Or we just have forms that have been separated, and we cannot even link who owns this page, right? Which individual does this page belong to? It's hard to identify that. And that challenge is simply the fact that we have to hire people. Typically, in that kind of context, we have to work with local NGOs to hire local staff. We have to buy computers for them. So think of the expenses involved and the time involved. So you hire people, you train them, you buy computers so that they can now manually enter data from paper to a spreadsheet, and then many times there is just error. I can't tell you the number of times we've come to a setting and we'll see, you open a drawer and you see thousands of paper forms that were never entered. And that can just tell you how much we underestimate the burden of outbreaks at any given time when you're dealing with paper, because you can be assured that there's a huge stash of paper you have not accounted for, that data has not been entered. And so all of those things make it very hard to get to zero. Our goal in the context of an outbreak is how do we get to zero? Zero new cases. But if you're not even surveilling it properly, how do you get to zero? So that's the challenge. In one of the problems, one of the challenges we've addressed that problem with is in some settings we always try to get this barcodes, and we'll stick a barcode on each questionnaire. But that doesn't work very well because first of all, it's just a lot of work, right? We have to order these things. We used to order them from South Africa. We'll order them to any particular country we're in, let's say in Sierra Leone, for example, and then we'll have to manually start appending a barcode on each questionnaire. They come off sometimes, so you're back to square zero. And then you now have the task of manually processing each form becomes just unbearable. So you're back to problem one, which is a lot of effort, takes a lot of time, and it costs a lot, right? So obviously we don't want solutions like this because, again, like I said, lives are at stake. So again, goal is to get to, now your scenario may not be so dramatic. You may not be interested in getting to zero. Your condition, your data need may just be, well, I just want to do a survey looking at knowledge, attitudes, and beliefs on smoking or hookah among college students. But it's still the same problems that we need to address, right? We need to figure out and build a sustainable solution. So what we've done at Chi-Squares is we've taken all of these problems based on just years of just experience in these harsh conditions where we collect data, and we've looked at all the problems that need to be solved, and we've just solved them. And so, okay, let's just solve this problem once and for all time. So what Chi-Squares has done is introduce a system for data collection in offline settings that addresses every single problem we've ever faced in the field. There are two ways of collecting data in offline mode on the Chi-Squares platform. The first was this, going back to our lecture, our schedule. The first was this. The second is this. So the first is electronic data capture in offline settings. So here you are using a device like a phone or your tablet or any other thing to collect data. So it's electronic, but it's offline, right? So that is the option number one. Option number two is to use paper, but the paper in such a way that it already has barcoded technology on it, right? So it's not just ordinary paper, it's papers where you have barcode technology and where you don't have to manually enter the data. So you print the questionnaire, you administer, you scan and upload, the platform automatically does the extraction and everything for you. For this one, you take your device, you collect the data, the platform automatically does the uploading and the processing for you. So either way, whether you need to use paper or and the reason why we had to provide these two options is we want to make sure that there is no scenario where you want to do data collection in offline settings that you can't, right? Because there's some scenarios. I've done a lot of work in prisons, and in prisons you're not be allowed to bring data, electronic devices, right? So you need paper in that kind of context. Or it may just be that you want to collect data, but you don't have the money to buy devices for people, and so you need to use paper. What about the scenario, whether you want to use paper or you have desire to use electronic devices, we have to make sure that the platform addresses both scenarios to the extent possible. And so that's a technology built into the platform. And so it addresses all the problems. The barcoded forms, there is no probability. The probability of making an error is zero. And well, when we cover that, you'll see why, because it is impossible to mix up sheets of paper. They can get mixed up, but it doesn't really matter because we've built that into technology so that it's 100% fail proof against errors like that. You can process the platform, like I said earlier, automatically processes the data with the offline mode. The extraction of data is done with AI. And so you don't have to manually start entering number one A, number two C. That is not necessary. It's HIPAA compliant, so we've built enough security into the system to acknowledge the fact that you might be dealing with protected data, and so it's HIPAA compliant, and it's scalable. Very importantly, scalable, so you can capture millions upon millions of records without ever worrying that the system will crash. Scalability is extremely important. It's one of those things you don't see, but extremely important in the architecture of software. So paper forms are important. So we can't talk about offline mode without talking about paper forms, because you need that in some settings where just cultural context. If you're working with older population, let's say you are doing work in nursing homes, people generally will prefer paper in that kind of context. Or in surveys of populations that are not comfortable with electronics, people are not tech savvy or not literate in that context, they will need paper. Or remote areas or disaster affected areas where there's no power. If you have a device, well, guess what? The device will run out of power, right? If there's no way to charge it back, well, you have to rely on paper. And then in educational settings where technology is not readily available, you may be a teacher and you want to administer exams. Maybe you don't have access to devices. So how do you administer it in such a way that you can also extract the data? And then, like I said earlier, secure environments where electronic devices are prohibited. In certain government facilities, you cannot bring devices, or in prisons. So all of those areas are where we need paper. All right, I'll see whether you have questions before we go on to our demo. I'm looking at the questions.
My question is that really you?
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Okay, the question. Please, can we get this scheduled? Aziz?
Schedule is right here. Let's
please, can we get this scheduled? Okay.
let's I'm not sure why. Okay, let me just refresh this page. All right, so let's in the absence of any I see a hand of Charles.
Yes, Charles.
Hello, Prof. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Charles. Okay.
Yes. So, I've asked this question before now, but you said then that we'll get to this particular section that we're handling now. Do we still have, because like I don't know, I keep including myself. Do we still have an app like I don't want to log in through the web, like the way you maybe you're using iOS, you're using like an Android, like you can go to Play Store or Apple Store to download an app like Chi-Square app, like the way like Survey CTOs, like Redcap has an app that you can download on a mobile device, then kind of use your logins to import the forms you're built in for you to now do the data collection in the field, whether offline and online. Do we have an app like that?
So that's what we're supposed to cover today. So we're going to get to that now. This is your session. This session is for you. All right, any other questions?
No.
All right, great. All right, so let's go on to
Okay. There's one question, sorry, that just came in now. Is this session related only to those in medical fields, or should I ask if it's beneficial to those in food and agriculture?
everything we do here is applicable to everybody, whether it's agnostic of the field. So it does not matter whether you're in agriculture or you are in, it's just saying you want to collect data. It doesn't matter which kind of data you're collecting. I hope that's clear.
The question always comes up.
Yeah. So it is, of course, I can only, I'm the one giving the instructions, so I can only give examples from my own experiences. And my experiences always happen to be more in the health sector because, well, I work in the health sector, but they are generalizable to any condition. So I hope that's clear. All right, so let's get started then. So we'll focus on how do you set a survey in offline mode on the Chi-Squares platform, and how does that relate to the issues that Charles asked about having an app. So I want to walk through that process now. So the part of setting the survey, it's the same. You set up the survey like you would. Obviously, you need internet to set up a survey. So I shouldn't have said that, but I just want to say it so that we're all on the same page. The fact that it's offline mode doesn't mean you would go to. This is not what it means. It does not mean you'll go to where there's no internet and then you now start setting up the survey there. It's like, okay, that's not going to work because you need to launch the survey first. So here is a big step. You launch the survey on where you have internet, because remember that you're going to collect the data in the cloud. So you need to be able to say, okay, here's a record here of the data set or the survey that we're referencing. And then you will then set the survey in offline mode. So that could be on your device, where you would then download all the materials for that particular survey into an app. Okay, Charles, see, this is where the app comes in. The app is downloaded on your device. If you have 100 surveys, you can access all of those surveys from that same app. This is the only time you need an app, right? When dealing with the Chi-Squares platform, when dealing with offline data. We might consider creating an app for the whole platform in general, but for now, this is when you're trying to collect data in offline modes, that's when you need it. And then whenever you are in the field and you need to collect data from particular individuals, you go to that app on your device and then you collect your data accordingly. So it's very simple. Now, this session, just to be very clear in terms of managing expectations, this session will not be enough for us to answer all the, we're going to need to have another workshop to go through the process so that you have a full understanding. But this is just to give you a quick overview of how it works so that, it's just a quick 101, a gentle introduction to offline data collection on the Chi-Squares platform. All right, so the setup is going to be exactly as we would if we're dealing with online data. So let's start with the types of the projects. Let's say our survey of, or let's say, who has it? Somebody suggest a title. Who has a survey they're working on that involves?
You can paste it on the chat box if you have a title. Cervical cancer screening.
Okay, all right, let's use that then. Cervical cancer. Okay. With cervical cancer screening, right?
Yes.
So let's call this attitudes and perceptions, practices towards cervical cancer screening All right, so that's our title. Let's say our location of our study is Nigeria. Our aims to assess attitudes. I'm not feeling lazy today, so I'm going to type all my aims manually. To assess attitudes towards adoption of cervical cancer screening. It's quite a long time since I typed any aim on Chisquares platform. I've become so lazy. I always use the AI tool. So assess attitude towards adoption of cervical cancer screening among adults in Nigeria. Let me just stick with one aim. Keywords, let's say cervical cancer and maybe screening. And so let's proceed with that, create new project. So this part is exactly the same as you would if you were just setting up a regular online survey. You provide the names of the collaborators if you have them. Now, there are two groups of people who, you know, if you're going to be working with offline survey. Number one, you have collaborators. Number two, you have agents. Those two things are not the same. So let me explain the difference. Collaborator means that I am working with, for example, Charles on a project as, you know, collaborators. That means that we'll, you know, when we create the paper, we will be co-authors together on that paper. That's collaborators. But we're going to introduce a new group of people we're going to call agents very soon. Agents are people who are going to go in the field to collect data. They are not the same thing. So agents, we're going to train the agents and then they will go to the field and collect data for us. Right. So just emphasize the fact that those are not the same thing. So you provide the email of your collaborators here. So in this case, let me gmail.com. You assign them a role. Let's say this is this is a co-author. You can add as many as you need. And once we save, the collaborators are invited by email. This part of the process should be very familiar to you. So set up our survey now. Now we have to create questions for the survey. Let's create just 2 questions. Let's say, let me use AI Builder. Let's just add 2 questions. Yeah, it's not feeling happy this morning. All right, let's try again. All right, let me just create questions myself. Single response question. What country are you from? Okay. Countries of the world. Let's just do that. Push the questionnaire. All right, so we have our question added. So far, so good. I hope we're all following up to this point. All right. Now, what we have to do is let's launch our survey. Let me set the timeline. We are launching the study today, and we want to end in 2025. Let's save the settings. All right. Now, this is now where the difference starts to emerge when we're setting the survey in offline mode. We have to set the survey to offline mode. How do you do that? You come to this button. So I'm going to go very slow at this point so that we're all on the same page. You come to this button that says settings. You click on that. You come here, you see offline survey. You click on that. It tells you the kind of survey you're running. You are currently running a cross-sectional survey. You see the red text that says offline data collection is disabled or paused for this survey. We obviously want to enable offline data collection, so we're going to click on that button and enable offline data collection. Now we have your survey is not yet set to offline mode. This is just the beginning of that process. Now we have to add agents. Offline agents are just people who will go and collect data in the field for you, right? They may be community workers or some students that you just hired and you're paying them to say, hey, go and collect this data, take these tablets, I'm going to train you and you're going to go and collect data from me. Now, because of security, we have to make sure that it's the only people who are authorized can access the data. We have to address issues of data security. We can't build a platform where we have no consideration for security. So individuals have to, each agent that is touching the data has to be validated. And every time they're going to collect data or access the data, they have to go through a series of security checks to make sure that there is security on the platform. So this is the whole process of you setting up agents for your offline data collection. So you first of all provide the names of the agents. So let's say that I'm an agent. You provide an email address, right? So let's say you provide an email and you provide their number. You enter the location, maybe the location where you want them to work. Let's say I want to work in South Boston, for example, right? You can add more. So let's say agent 2. Let's say I want Lungile to be an agent. And yeah, her email.
Prof, someone is offended by the name agent, by the word agent.
Oh, really?
Apparently should use a research assistant instead.
Well, those are semantics, right? So we choose to call them agent here to make it clear that they're not but your feedback is well taken. We can definitely make that change. But you have to understand that this is just for your use, right? But anyway, let's get on. But we'll definitely hear you and we'll definitely make that change as well. And so next, you provide the phone number of this. You cannot have duplication of phone number. So for example, if I try to put this same number, the location can be the same, obviously, and submit, I will have a validation error that this phone number already exists in the system. All right, so so you have to change the number. You also cannot submit without a phone number, right? Because it's part of a security system. The user has to validate themselves every single time that they need to access the platform for security reasons. So you can remove an agent. You can add as many as you need. And once you submit, the individuals are added, right? Now, they are going to get an email that, Charles, I don't know whether are you able to show us or Lungile, are you able to show your screen? I'm not sure how to show, since I'm, how to show, since you were the ones who was asking about the app, I would like you to see how that works on your mobile device, but in general, right? So let me explain what happens next. And this is something that is best done by you just trying it out and going through the process. So I'm going to explain what happens next here. The agents will get an email, right, that would allow them to, let me see if I've gotten the email already. Hold on a minute. On how to, hold on a minute.
I think Charles wants to try.
Okay, Charles, can you what's your email? Let me add you as an agent.
Okay. I should call it as you type it.
Uh,
Charles.ehemere.
all right.
Ehemere.charles, rather.
I think
Ehemere.
you might have to type that.
Okay, no problem. Ehimere.charles
E
at
E
EHI.
EHI.
Yes. EMERE. I'm typing it out as well.
Okay. And your Gmail.
You can use Gmail, you can use outlook.com. Anyone is good.
So
The
is
same name,
okay.
the same name at Outlook will go, at Gmail will go. I have the two emails very active.
So Charles Ahimere. Do we add a dot or anything? It's just the two combined.
Yes, ehemere.charles at ehemere.charles.
Yeah. At
It's on
gmail.com.
the chat as well.
All right.
Yes.
And your phone number is right. I can
I should have the country code.
yes, yeah. Plus 234, I
Okay,
guess.
yes, 803 749
749
5010.
5010.
10. Yeah.
So your location, let's say you are in Bielsa.
I'm not in Bayelsa. I just use my location. I don't have issues with that. I'm
Okay.
in Benue. I'm in
Oh,
Benue.
oh really?
Yes.
What part of Benue are you in?
I'm in Macaulay. Sorry.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
I'm from Benue State.
I know already.
Oh, really? All right, Makodi. All right.
Yes,
So,
I'm in Macaulay. Yes.
oh, that's cool. So we're going to submit that. Now you should in a few seconds you should be able to get an email as an agent.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
don't know where when you've gotten that, let us know.
Okay. Let me check my email.
So there's no limit to the number of agents you can add. You can add as many agents as you need to um, the project.
Okay. I have the email now.
Okay, the email should come from. I'm not using my account. This is from
Yes,
Muideen.
I know. I'm seeing from Muideen.
Yeah,
Muideen.
yeah. I'm not using my account. So this is
Yes.
so the email comes from the owner of the
The
project.
sender, the owner of the research.
Exactly. And so and it's possible, right? I may have a research assistant or a secretary who would, as a please help me set up the stuff. It should
Okay.
make sense that the message still comes from me because it's using my account. Does that make sense?
It does.
All right, great. So are you able to show us your screen so that we'll walk through the process, or you can't?
Because I opened it on my phone. Should I open it on the laptop?
No, it's on your phone, right? Wanted to install you are the one who wanted to know how to install it on your app, right? An app.
Yes.
Yeah, so we want you to show us your phone so that others can also follow through in terms of the process.
Okay.
So should I stop sharing so that we can look at it from your end?
So how do I do? So I need to. Okay, I'm coming. I need to put the authentication code now. 1 minute. So
Can you share? Are you possible to share your screen on a mobile
okay.
so that
How do I do that from? How do I do that from the phone now?
you're on Zoom on a phone, right?
No, I'm on Zoom on the laptop.
Oh, I see. Can you at least just point the front of your screen towards your camera so that let's
Okay. Okay. Let me do that. Let me log in and do that.
okay.
I don't know whether it's clear.
Yeah, we will see it. Aha. Uh it's there's an angle where we can see it clearly.
And the thing, the camera is trying to like refocus on the what I'm trying to show. Let me come. I will get it where it will be.
I think you can just join the call with from your phone and then share your
Okay.
screen.
Okay, let me do that. Let me do that, Prof. Let me quickly do that. Let me just share my phone.
All right, because I think it's very important that folks also see how that end works so that they can have a complete experience in terms of what that whole process looks like.
Let me quickly join via my phone. Yeah, I'm in now. So
Recording in progress.
okay.
So the moral of the story is that the research assistant or the agent you add to your study they will get this. They have to be online too. Otherwise, if they're not online, how are they going to get the email? So at the point of setup, they have to be online, right? So so in this case, Charles is the agent of record or the research assistant of record. He has to be online to access the email that will onboard him to the project. He has to be online to set up the survey on his device. And once he has installed the app on his device, at that point, he no longer needs to be online. He can then take that. So I just need to emphasize that because you have a scenario where somebody goes to the village or to the place where there's no internet, and then it's like, okay, I'm here. How do I set up? I'm like, okay, do you have internet? He's like, no. I'm like, all right, you have to set up where there's internet first. So I think that's why I want to really emphasize that. So if you're doing a study where you're going to work with several agents or research assistants, you want to make sure that they understand that clearly, and it's your responsibility as the investigator to make sure that everybody's well sorted out first before they go to where there's no internet. Otherwise, the whole purpose is lost. You will not collect any data. Charles, you're on mute, by the way.
Okay, I'm trying to share my screen now.
No, Charles, can you tap on your screen and then check on share? The share on your phone screen. Just go
I have
there
seen
and
share.
scroll down. Yes.
Then when I scroll down, I'm seeing so many apps.
Okay, there under the share, there's a screen. It's after bookmark, before camera. Are you there?
I think all you need to do is to click on the share. It's going to bring it to a page where you are going to share your screen. Just click on the share itself. You are on mute. You are on mute. Yeah.
Charles, you're really struggling. Charles, you're still on mute, by the way. You're not winning at
Okay,
all.
hello.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I said what I'm seeing is when I click on the share, I'm seeing photo, the first option, image, the second option, documents, web URL, then screen.
Yes, you
Right?
see the screen.
Click on the screen.
I want to put on when I click on the screen, it's not showing me start recording or casting with Zoom.
Why don't you log the email address using your laptop? Open the email using your laptop, if that would be faster and better.
The email.
Yes, using your laptop, the email.
Okay, so maybe some of these things are best done by yourself. So I'm just going to I'm going to describe the whole process, what you should expect, so that when you're trying it, the whole point is just to give you some guidance, so that when you do set up on your own, then you won't be lost. Let me just explain the whole process as you would expect it to be. Just hold on a minute. Let me pull up something here.
Can someone else assist? Someone who is good at it. Can someone else assist? You want to learn it.
Yeah. So I would just walk you through what to expect. So you're going to get a message like this. This will be similar to what Precious Charles has gotten. So it will be hello, name of agent, the name of whoever you type there. So it's customized to them. This is to notify you that you have been invited as a field interviewer for the project, then the name of a project on Chi-Squares. This email provides you with the necessary code to authenticate and download the required resources for this project. This is the project link that is here, right? So that's the link, and so the individual can then set up offline data collection, right? I wanted it done on a mobile device because most times people will use a mobile device, but this is exactly what you would need. And then you have to provide the authentication code, which is this code. Each individual has a separate or different authentication code, which they will need to use. So in this case, and this is customized to that individual. The next agent will get a completely different authentication code, which they will need to use. The username is the same as your phone number, so that way you can't forget it. So so you provide the authentication code, which is NZA 431, I believe. I provide the username, which is your phone number. Again, we try to find a number that you shouldn't be able to forget. And you authenticate. I think I already added this before, I believe. Let me see. Let me confirm the code. NZA43. Is that 31 or 3I? Let's see. Let's try I. NZA43I. 43I. It's 4, 3, 6, 3, I. Let's see. Charles, have you been able to authenticate yours? So that's an I 43. Right. 404503276. Let me make sure that this is the, oh, sorry, this is a complete different project. Lesson number 2, make sure that you are looking at the correct project, right? You're going to get, as an agent, you know, you will all emails, if it's possible that you're going to use the individual for different projects. So you have, let's say, a very hardworking research assistant, and you have him working on 4 or 5 projects. There are security also built into the system to make sure that the code you are using for one project does not apply to another. And also, if you have deleted an individual. So for example, this code that I try to use, I have deleted this individual. So if I go back to that original project, let's go there. That individual has been deleted. So if you have removed an agent, so let's go back to this individual here. If I have removed him from being an agent and he tries to log back in, obviously it will tell him that you have been removed. So that's another security measure, so that individuals that you have removed are not able to still access the work, right? So that's a security measure into the platform. So I think this is the email I added. So this is the email I should be looking at. This is the project, attitudes, perceptions, and practices towards cervical cancer screening. It looks similar, but it's different. Again, you see there's a different authentication code on this one. So let's try this one again. So once again, I come up to this page. The title is there so that you don't mix it. So if you're working with an agent that is working on multiple projects, you want to make sure that they are using the correct code for the correct project. And you shouldn't be able to miss that because the project is right there at the top. Again, let's set up, provide you can't mix up the numbers. So if you've typed up the wrong number, it will show you error, right? So let me make sure that I have, this is I075, I075, 75. DB. Let's try that, see. Okay, so now the agent was added successfully. So now I am recognized as an agent in the system to collect data. So it's possible you might miss your PIN. Again, we have to introduce multiple, because we're dealing with protected health information. So we need to make sure that there are multiple layers of security in place to make sure that the integrity and security of data is not compromised. The easiest way to compromise your data is through an agent, right? Through a field interviewer, because the individual may leave their tablets on somewhere, and somebody else can come and access the data. Somebody else can come and try to enter a PIN. And so all of those things need to be considered as part of data security. But we need to also create a mechanism where users can still recover their PIN if they lose it. Now on the mobile device or whichever, all of these things have to be done online, right? So again, trying to emphasize the things that are online versus the things that are offline. So all of this setup must be done online. So you can provide the names you can select any of the security questions so that you can set up an answer. So what's the name of the college you applied to but did not attend? So make sure that it's an answer that you can remember, because otherwise, it becomes challenging to so you provide the answer, and that answer must be the same whenever you come back and type it. And then you type in a PIN of whatever it has to be a 4-letter number, a 4-digit number, which you must remember. So that again, when you come back, every time you come back, you have to enter the PIN to be able to access the platform. I see a hand up. Elvis, your hand is up. Okay. So now I have set up.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, Professor. This is Hassan Binya again.
Hello, Hassan. How are you?
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm fine, Prof. Yes. So, Prof, I wanted to ask, the system currently you are operating with, I wanted to do, I'm currently working on a project which is investigating low BCG coverage in selected districts. So this particular study, I was thinking that, is it possible for me to use this to develop my questionnaire and then also do the analysis?
Yes. You can, any survey you are doing can be set to offline mode. Offline mode has nothing to do with your survey. It's just.
Hi, Prof.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me at all? Have I lost? Lungile, can you confirm you can hear me, please?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay. So I want to make sure that we separate issues of data collection from issues of analysis. So on the Chisquares platform, you can set up your data. The platform analyzes your data, generates your reports. Offline mode just simply means it's just an extra way for you to collect data in areas where there's no internet. So the data you collect from offline mode will still go and join the data you will have collected from online. Now, in the data set, when you collect data in offline mode, there will be an indicator that tells you where the data came from, whether it came from offline or online or wherever. There will be, so that you can know that this particular individual, oh, I see, he came from offline mode. All of those things will be on the platform for you to, when you download your data sets. I hope that is clear. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but if I didn't, please, you can recast the question a different way. Any other questions? Again, we're going to have a nice session of this. This is just to give you a broad overview of how to access it.
So, Prof, are you not going to finish first and then ask
Okay,
questions?
let's do that then. All right. So let's import our survey material. Now, this is extremely important. This is a very, very key step. You have to import the survey material from the web to your device. Now, this is the most important step of all, right? So you click on import survey materials. Now, if you have not launched your survey, you will get an error. Survey has not been launched. Why are you getting this error? Well, we want to make sure that you have truly finished with the survey, because once we import the survey, I mean, this should be logical, right? Once we import the stuff, well, we've imported it, right? So it makes sense that you have to finish your survey before going through this process, right? And so these are some of the errors you will come across if you did not launch a survey. If you launch a survey and invited an agent, but you did not provide their emails, obviously they will not get an email. So email is required. If you have an agent with that is involved in multiple surveys, right? They're going to get different activation codes to each survey. As an agent, I will be able to access all of the different surveys from the same app, right? But I should be able to make sure, it is very critical. There's nothing more horrible than somebody collecting the wrong data in the wrong survey, right? So there are clear indications that make you be aware of what's going on at any point. So let's go back and launch the survey. Let me make sure I'm launching the right survey. Let's see, that's not the right account I'm using. Okay, this is the attitudes, perceptions, and practices. Okay, this is the correct survey. So let's launch the survey. So again, launching of a survey is exactly the same as you would with your regular survey, right? You launch a survey, and then we can then go on. Let me make sure that this The account I'm using is not the actual, it's a dev. So it's an experimental link. So you won't experience most of those errors on your own. You will also not be able to see this on your account. We're pushing this later on, maybe over the weekend. So just to keep that in mind, let's see what the issues are here. Let me try again. Okay, the survey has been launched. So you should be able to know that the survey is launched because you have a launched indicator. Now, let's go back to this and try importing again. So it's importing our survey material. Let me refresh the page. It doesn't realize that it's been launched. So let's import again. So import survey materials. You have successfully imported the survey materials for this project. So let's continue. Now, if you are using a mobile device, you would have this installed as a, that's why I really wanted someone to show their device. You will have it as an app. The same way you have an app on, like different apps on your, on your phone, you will have a Chisquares app installed on your phone. That's how it's going to appear on a mobile device. So that to get to that survey, you would always just go to that app and click on the icon. Looks something like this icon. Like exactly, this is the icon you'll see on your mobile device when you have set the survey in offline mode, right? If you have made any changes to your survey, you just make sure you refresh, hit the refresh button here. And that's how you would, you would make sure that your surveys align with what's the offline and online are aligned. So you can collect data for either individuals or groups. And so if it's for individuals, you simply start survey. Now, this is completely offline, while I'm online. I have to be online so that you guys can see what I'm showing. But this is exactly how it's going to appear offline. Now remember that once the agent has downloaded the survey onto their device, they don't need to be online anymore. So this is but the experience you will see on the interface will be exactly what you will have seen if you were online. You can then start the survey. You can, again, all of this is exactly as you're used to on the Chisquares platform, right? Just that this time it's offline. Again, this is some of these things are best done yourself. When you do it, you realize, okay, oh wow, I can collect data, and the data are then saved, accordingly. Are there any questions I need to answer? When you collect records, let me explain some of those buttons here, the different buttons that are here. Total collected in the app, you'll be able to see the number of records that you have. So if you have collected 10 records, you're going to see 10 records. Uploaded data will be total number of records that have been uploaded into the cloud, right? So data at some point have to leave, the records you've collected at some point have to leave your device, whether it's a phone or a tablet, and join the web data on the cloud. That's what the uploaded data means. You can either do that automatically or manually, right? To push data manually, you click this button, push collected data. That takes all the records that have been collected and pushes it into the cloud. Now, the system also checks. If you've collected data and you have not pushed it, the data will automatically push itself. Just say, because it's possible, right, that you've had a very long day, you came back and you had plans to push the data, and you just forgot. Life happens and things move. You moved on. It should never be the case that 6 months later you're like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot to. No, that is a very faulty design. So the platform would, after a while, if it has determined that you have not pushed data, to push it for you. I see there are lots of hands up, so I'm going to pause and take questions.
Okay.
So we're going to have a workshop, especially when we push the changes to prod, so that you have access to it. But for now, this was just an introduction to how the offline mode works. But we also have actually a workshop planned coming on the 17th and 18th. So, but before then, we might also have another hands-on workshop session. But this was so that we since we missed the session last week, just to make up for what we lost, so that we're all on the same page.
Yeah. Hello, Prof. Thank you so much for the session. So I asked a question earlier about whether the system was case sensitive in terms of the answer you'd have to provide. Because some systems are designed in a way that if you add some extra capital letters or you write it in small, it wouldn't take it as the same input. Then in terms of pushing collected data, does the system have a way to know whether the form has been finalized? Because some of us that have been used to ODK and all this, you can have data on the offline, you've not finalized it. So before you have to push it to the cloud is when you must have finalized it. You might go to the field and you want to take a look at the form again before clicking finalize or finish. I just want to know what the form looks like at that particular point where you've taken the data. Do you save and then finalize before you push it where you get to where you want to push it? Thank you so much.
Yeah. So if data is not, if you've not finished a survey, it's not part of a record. It's not part of the total collected records, right? The records are only, we don't have follow-up contacts here, but if you have individuals that you pause the survey midway, they are not part of a finalized record, so they can't be pushed, right? So you can then make changes as needed before you make that push. The push only applies to the individuals who have completed the survey. So because then it will not make sense for any system to automatically be pushing records that are incomplete. That will make no logical sense. Because then that compromises the quality of the data. So the only records that are finalized are part of the total collected data. Any other ones that are still incomplete are there. So when you push, you're only pushing things that are completed. The auto push to only pushes things that are completed. Regarding your first question, yes, the system is case sensitive because it's supposed to be part of security measures. Maybe the school you attended or the question you asked has a very specific pattern in terms of the casing. So a robust security measure should have those kind of sensitivities in place too, so that John, John, uppercase is not the same as, because the whole point is that you might have a particular mental trick that you're using to make sure your data is secure. So even if somebody knows the exact answer, the casing makes a difference. So so as part of security measures, yes, that is enforced that way too.
Thank you. Can I launch my survey before setting it in offline mode and inviting agents?
Yes, you can launch a survey. You could have started a survey, because that's a very reasonable question, right? Because I might have had 2 months of online data collection, and then I just decided that, okay, I want to extend the data collection to this village that has no internet. So of course, I should be able to add an offline component at any point in time. So yes, that's possible.
Francis?
Yeah, good afternoon, Prof.
Hello.
Yeah, well done, and you are well appreciated.
Thank you.
My question has to do with, occasionally I supervise some students because I'm in the area of Earth observation and geoinformatics. So, and some students are pushed to us to supervise. And I'm always curious, wanting to know the spatial context of the data distribution. Was it factored in to the development of the workflow of the Chisquares?
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand the question, right?
Yeah, the spatial context in terms of the spatial context.
Oh, the spatial. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, spatial context.
Okay.
Because some of us want to look at the trend so that to be able to, like when the COVID occurred, we are able to geocode the incidences, and that enabled the provisions of some infrastructure and facilities. So it's always very good to see how it can be related in terms of providing the coordinates. So that's just my question.
Yeah. So one of the questions we have is we're making final changes to that question before we release it, is an address question. So what the address question does is that it allows the user to type in an address, and what happens behind the scenes is that when they type in an address, we use a geolocation finder, and we take that address. In your response data set, you're going to have the address, but you're also going to have the long and lats, so the longitudes and latitudes that correspond to that location, right? So that is one of the features we're about to roll out very soon. We also have a map question, because it's possible that in the field that I may know the address, or I may not know the address, but I know the rough area where it is. So in the cases where the individual may not necessarily have the specific address, the other part of that question allows you to use a setting where the user can click on a particular map, location on the map. And because I may know that, okay, I don't know the name of this address, but I know that this is where this thing happened. So I can click on that and it will automatically grab or fetch the longitude and latitude. So that way, whether you type the address or you point on a specific location on the map, the system automatically extracts the geocoordinates so that you can do whatever spatial analysis you need to do. So that's one of the features we're rolling out in the next week or so. So you can expect that to be there. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Prof. Thanks.
Yeah. We automatically collect data also on the IP address, but that is not because from the IP address, we can obviously extract the longitude and latitude, but that's not a very reliable, it's not good data really, because I may be here, but using an IP address from somewhere else, right? So it doesn't really tell you anything. The data quality is not that good. So while we can use that, even right now, it's not something I would recommend, because the quality of data is not that good because of the issues I mentioned. So for that reason, the best way to do that will be to just wait until we release the address question and the map question. All right, any other question?
Sorry, but I am a little confused about this platform. Can we use it for systematic review data collection?
You can use it for any data collection. Systematic review data collection is simply that you are extracting data from the literature. So in this case, the subject is not a human being, but a manuscript, where you are, extracting specific data points based on a form you created. So you might say that for this systematic review, I want to extract data on the title of a paper, the DOI, the year of publication, the title, what was the intervention, what was the control group, what was the sample size. You have already established a priori all of those parameters that you need to extract from each manuscript. So it is simply just creating a questionnaire and plugging in the values, right? So whether you want to do that online or offline, it's up to you. But one way we can really improve how we work in the scientific space is to think more broadly. Like the issue of data collection is simply saying we need to collect data on so and so and so parameter. It doesn't matter whether it's from a human being or from anything, right? But the principles are really all the same. So yes, in the nutshell, yes, you can use the Chisquares platform to set up and collect data for your systematic review.
Thank you. A query.
Okay, can you hear me?
Clearly.
Thank you, Prof, for the lecture. Actually, you answered one of the questions I had. I'm currently working on groundwater mapping, and the special distribution of the data I was getting was also an issue. I think you answered that part. But I want to add to that. I want to ask about another possibility of this particular app or this particular feature. Is it possible to use this to administer tests to students? I'm a lecturer in the university, so I'm looking at the angle of using it to administer quiz or tests to students. Is it possible for that to be done with this feature? Thank you.
That's a good question, and that's one of the things that we've gotten so many requests on that we decided to build it. And so yes, that's a work in progress right now. It's going to be released with the next iteration of releases, so that will be in there. So the quiz mode, the way it's going to work is you set up it's like a regular survey, open-ended, closed-ended questions, whichever questions you want. You specify what the correct answer is, obviously, for each question, and what the grading scheme should look like. How many marks should each point carry? Should there be negative marking or any of those things that you want? You set them up, and once you do that, the participants can then take the survey, and then at the end of each, it tells them the score. But you can also get a compiled records from each individual with their names and their scores, and then you can use that. You also get the results in a database that you can use. So it's something that we're actively building now, and it will come out with the next set of releases. Was there a specific aspect to that you needed that I have not covered in my description? Or is that about what you need? Okay. If you're
Hello?
yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I think you've covered it. And I was thinking, if that's the case, that means the agent could be the student. And if that's the case, you can as well think of increasing the number of agents, so that it can correspond with the number of students you may have. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it's fine. I hear you, sir.
So in that case, the students will not necessarily be the agent's person, because the agent is the one who, this agent applies only to the offline mode, right? I'm assuming that the exam settings will be in the case of online survey. So in that case, you don't even need to go through that whole route of implementing agents. And for the person who asks for why we use agents, because again, this is another reason why, because the term agent is more broad. It applies to different contexts. The platform is used largely by research, but it's not only for research, right? People in other sectors use it, banking, finance, and so when you say research assistants, that's such a very narrow context. So that's an answer to the previous question. Now, back to the issue of quizzes. In this case, if you have a quiz set up, it's going to be exactly like a regular survey, and you're just going to share the survey, right, with the participants. So you don't have to create agents. You can just copy the link and share with them. But you want to make sure that in the survey, you have a question for what is your name. If it's an exam, it can't be anonymous. Yeah, you have to know who, you have to supply their names as part of their responses, so that when they supply their names and do the response and submit the answer, the platform automatically grades each person. And so you don't have to go down that route of creating agents, because they are just regular participants to a survey, but it's just that it's a special survey that is a quiz that is going to be graded. And you as the professor, or you are the one that set up the survey as the professor, right? And so you will then have in your storage, you will have the records for that particular survey. You will have all the graded sheets, but you'll also have in the response data set for that survey will then have if you go here, for example, under manage collected data, when you download the data, you will be able to see the responses for each individual. So you can access that data in different ways. But yeah, it's going to be really, really simple to use, that you can be assured of. All right, next question.
Okay. My question is about the survey tool. Do I have to upload it on the platform as a separate file, or I can develop it right on the platform?
You can do anything you want. You can choose to, let me pause the survey. You can upload, there are 6 ways to create questions on the platform. One of them is to import from Word. So that means that you already created a questionnaire in Microsoft Word. Import from Excel, you already created an Excel, or you can, you can just build from the platform. So you can say, you can type whatever question you want, do you want to type from scratch? So yeah, you can do any of those as you desire.
Are there any other questions? We've shared the link, attendance/evaluation. I've shared that link on the chat box. And I've also shared for all previous recordings and our slides. We post our slides on our LinkedIn page. Please follow us and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where you get all previous recordings and our slides. I've shared those links as well. So if you can just check the chat box, everyone, for the evaluation and attendance, as well as the link, YouTube. Even this current session is live on YouTube, so you can always go back and check if you want to watch. Okay, I'm sharing again. Any other questions? Okay, seems there are no questions, just appreciation for Prof.
Okay. So right, we'll have another hands-on section workshop. Unfortunately, some of the sessions are always best done like in person, especially sessions like offline mode. But we'll do the best we can. But we're going to have another workshop where we just go over step by step and set it up. And maybe that would also reinforce that like, for example, some of these issues with post survey, how does that work? It's best done when we actually have data. Like here, we click on resume survey, but we don't have any responses. You have no pause survey, so it becomes a bit abstract. But again, the goal of this session today was just to walk you through the platform and the interface to see how it looks like, so that you can at least have some familiarity. So when next we're doing with actual data, then everything makes sense. All right, there are no further questions. Thanks so much for attending.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can I use it to access Google questionnaires I'm collecting with my data, my personal data? I mean, I didn't collect it with Chisquares platform.
This tool is for offline data collection. So it's meant for you to, so the simple answer to your question is no, right? This particular, what we're showing, is meant for you to go and collect data where there is no internet. So you can understand how, so you can't link it with Google in that context, because the data are all coming from participants who you are interviewing in the field.
Thanks, Prof. Could you kindly explain how one can input from Word to the Chisquares data collection tool?
So you would come over here. Let's go to the survey. So let's say you want to import a survey from a Word document. Let's pause the survey. So come to questionnaire design, you click on this arrow, you click on import from Word. Now, when you want to click on import from Word, there are instructions because you have to format your document a particular way. And so you would download the instruction here. There's also a sample questionnaire to see the questionnaire that has been formatted, right? You can click to download that and see how that looks like. And then you'd, so for example, this is the formatted document that I just downloaded. There are specific instructions. The title must have a T at the beginning, double at and T. Everything ends with the hashtag, 3 hashtags. So because the system has to know where a particular thing ends and where the other one begins. So the title must have 2 @ signs by T for title, and then must end with 3 hashtags. Sometimes you have a piece of information that is not a question, it's just a prompt or just a piece of information for participants. I for information, you start that with double @ and I for information. And again, everything ends with 3 hashtags. The sliding questions in general begin with Q. Think of Q and A, questions and answers. Questions begin with Q and answers begin with A. So a question and then each answer begins with A. Double @. The reason why we have double @ is so that they are unique delimiters. The system has to recognize that this is something special. Imagine we just put A at the beginning. A could be a regular text. The system has to know that this is a special text. That's why we have a Q and A system, right? So now for some, there are some special symbols that allow you to specify that exact type of question that you have. So while at Q is for questions in general, we have some special symbols that will allow you to know whether it is a sliding scale question, for example. So for sliding scale question, we use this arrow. This kind of looks like a slider. If you can look at it carefully, like you can visualize it in your mind. It looks like we're sliding this arrow, sliding to the right. And so this tells the system that this is a sliding scale question. When it's a sliding scale question, you don't have to put response options because the system would by default put 1 to 10 and you can edit it when you want. Or you can also choose to put answers, number 1, number 2, number 10, all the way to number 10 if you want. So, but at Q with that arrow is sliding scale. Then at Q and this arrow in the opposite direction is a Likert scale. If you kind of look at it, this kind of looks like an L. At least it looks like an L to me, like a very funky L, right? So L for Likert. So we've chosen these icons in a way that it's kind of at least makes some sense, at least on a very crude level. So at Q with this arrow that looks like an L stands for Likert. Then just a regular question that is nothing special about it, just a regular MCQ. You don't have to put any special special symbols. So just at Q is for question and then answer. Everything ends with 3 hashtags. Remember that. A multiple answer question, you put at Q and plus, telling the system that this is many answer options are allowed. So that's what the plus is doing. And then you have the answer options. For a Likert scale question, you put just at Q. This is now for a matrix question. Now, there are 2 types of matrix questions. One is a question where the user can only select 1 answer per row, in which case it's just at Q because it's only 1 answer per row. Or matrix questions where you can select multiple answers per row, in which case you put at Q and a plus. Plus always means that there's more than 1 answer that is appropriate that the user can select, right? So that's the matrix setup. So for matrix, you have at Q, the upper Q, and these are the answers in the matrix questions. The answers are the columns here. The matrix is also special because you also have the sub questions, which are indicated with Q, a small letter Q. You have a big question and a small question. This is the father question, and these are the baby questions. So the father question is the big Q, the baby questions are the small Qs, and the answers are A as usual. We've explained for matrix with multiple answers. A matching question is, a question on the Chisquares platform where you have to match items on the left with answers on the right. So here you have the father question, which is Q, then the baby questions, which are to be matched. And then the attributes, which have to match the items on the left, are represented with small a, right? And this is to make it different from a matrix question, because see, a matrix question also has a big Q, a small q, but the answers for a matrix questions are the big A's. So the system has to find a way of distinguishing the different types of questions. So here, for a matching question, instead of big A for the answers, you have, since you're matching attributes to the questions, the attributes are represented by lowercase a. The same thing with ranking question. There are other types of questions on the platform, like simple ranking question and complex ranking questions, which are also called discrete choice experiments. So for a simple ranking question, you have at Q, which is the main question, and then you have attributes. For a complex rank, which is a discrete choice experiment, you have the same setup, but instead of just one Q, you have a Q with plus, because a discrete choice experiment, you have multiple selections on each screen. So again, it's designed in a way that is intuitive. And so on and so forth, right? So you can download the instructions, read it, and then follow accordingly. This is also a common one you might need. Drop down menu question. Drop down. The icon exclamation mark looks like drop down. It's just dropping down the icon, the dot there. So for a drop down question, you just indicate it as, with the exclamation mark afterwards. And then an upload is the caret. This is pointing upwards as if you're uploading something upload, right? So for any question that is upload, you put at Q and then the upload icon. And then for number is hashtag for number, so that the system knows that that's a hashtag. That's a number, you're expecting the number to be there. And then the date. We typically write dates as a number slash another number slash another number. So we use a slash to indicate date questions. And then an open-ended question is a question mark at the end. A randomized trial question is a percentage. And it's if you just take some time to read it, it's the icons are intuitive. So that's how you do it. So you format your questionnaire that way, and then you upload it. You choose the file where it is, and you upload, and the system will automatically. So let me see if I can find the question, a document that I have. Let me see if I have anything of that nature. Anyway, I may not, but you can definitely play with that and see. Try formatting your questionnaire, and it's just upload, and you can continue. The same thing with Excel. If you want to import with Excel, then you would follow the same pattern, and there are instructions for this that are separate compared to those for Word, and then you do the same thing. I hope that's clear.
Charles?
Yes, thank you, Prof. So what it means is that it's good that you kind of explain these things again, which you have done a couple of times. When people say upload what document of your questionnaire, one could just be tempted to have it like a plain questionnaire and upload. So what it means is that if I should go ahead and do that, the system will not recognize it, or perhaps it will not come out the way I would have expected. Is that correct?
That's correct, because a questionnaire is data. We have a mantra of not allowing AI to come in contact with data. We can easily implement a questionnaire with just AI like that, but the problem is that it's likely going to have a lot of error. And so for that reason, we try not to optimize that which should not be optimized, right? Our goal here is not to create a fancy software where AI is doing everything. No, it's to create a mechanism where accuracy is prioritized. So it boils down to knowing when we should use AI for certain things and when we should definitely not use AI for other things. And in that case, uploading your questionnaire just like that will require that we use AI. And it's going to be very messy with very, very high error rates, which we just cannot accept. So that means that this is where we then have to do things manually and optimize accuracy over convenience. I hope that makes sense. If you don't want to do a lot of formatting, then I will recommend that you use Excel. Import from Excel is straightforward, right? The question goes into the first column. So if you download, let me download a sample questionnaire for Excel. So this is the questionnaire for Excel. The questions go to the first column. The answers go into the second column, right? And if you're just dealing with MCQs or things of that nature, you don't have to, this one, you don't have to worry about formatting and 3 hashtags at the beginning or add Q, none of that. It's just required that put the questions in the first column and the answers in the second column. So for example, the title, now we still need to know for certain things, like the title, you have to put it must be curly brackets, right? So T for title, and if you have any piece of information that is not a question, you indicate it with I in curly brackets at the end, right? But the rest of it is pretty straightforward. Question goes in the first column, the answers go in the second column. You must make sure that the first answer of the response options aligns with the STEM. So here, for example, what is the nature of man? Answer options are beasts, lions, and demons. The beast has to align with, I can't do it this way because there has to be some structure where the system knows where to extract content from or data from. So here, this is incorrect. So here, the answer has to be, the first option has to align with the stem of the question. So does that make sense?
Yes, okay, Prof. Okay. So again, like typical me is like I try to explore other ways, like which have also aided me in learning. For example, if I go to the Chi-Square, like I don't want to upload, or perhaps I don't want to start the upload. Perhaps I want to also understand how the system does its own thing, like start building a form on the platform. Then, like, let me use a typical example of how I learned how to use Kobo Collect very well in terms of the form. When I build the form there, I will now download it as an Excel. So I will now see how the system arranges its own the question I build in it. Then I will now continue from the form that I've downloaded from that platform. So I also want to believe that Chi-Square system has that option to say I can start off inputting a questionnaire, then I can download that questionnaire, then continue. That's just if I just want to understand, I don't make mistakes, then I continue with that form, then later on upload it again. Is that doable?
Yeah, you can download the questionnaire, but the questionnaire you're downloading is just meant to be for your own use. So when you download this questionnaire, when you download it, the downloads are meant for other practical purposes, right? So here, the questionnaire download, in this case here, you have 2 options. You have the view only PDF download, right? Because the problems we're trying to solve are different. The problems we're trying to solve are, how do we ensure optimal data quality in challenging circumstances, right? So in the case of, for example, paper and pencil questionnaire, it's like, okay, the individual, why are you downloading the questionnaire? Well, to go and collect the data. So the problems we are solving are quite different. So here, for example, if the user says, I want the paper and pencil questionnaire, we'll say, okay, how many copies do you need, right? The user says, I want 3 copies. You select the language you want, and then you continue to download, right? The platform will then take that questionnaire and create a unique copy for each individual, right? So if you view the download history, so this is the barcoded questionnaire we have just created with a barcode for each individual. And each question or each page has unique signatures that identify what project it is, who answered what, or which response option it is. So for example, this is question 1, response option number 1 for individual number 1. This is the barcode that tells me that this is individual number 1, right? Question 1, option number 2 for individual number 1, right? So the point I'm trying to make is that different platforms prioritize different problems they want to solve. Kobo Collect may say, oh, just download a questionnaire to continue your questionnaire progress and upload it later. That's not the problem we're trying to solve. Our problem we're trying to solve is how do we improve data quality in areas that are impossible to collect data, high quality data on paper, right? And so it's just knowing, again, our goal is not to solve problems that have been solved or where we have provided multiple options for you to bring in the data. We are interested in completely different sets of problems that we're trying to solve. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, Prof, it does.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Are we all set?
But again, just also reiterate is that aside the upload, one can also work directly on the platform to the kind of build in the questionnaire directly on the platform aside the upload.
Exactly. And one of the things we're also in our next release that we're working on is that we're building integrations that will allow you to import questionnaires directly from any other survey tool. So if you, for example, if you're working in, let's say Google or Kobo Collect or Qualtrics, we're building a mechanism that will allow for a handshake with those applications so that your questions can be imported directly into the platform. So you don't have to go through an unnecessary step of you download and then you start uploading. That is quite unnecessary. So that's one of the things that would rolling out in some of the next few releases we will put out.
Thanks, Prof. Ayudeji?
Okay. Yes, good day, Prof. Please, can you hear me?
Clearly, yes.
Okay, yes. I really want to appreciate you, Prof. In fact, the teaching has been very, very, very good to me. Firstly, sorry for taking you back. On the AI toolkit of yesterday, I just practiced something on the Chi-Square platform now. So I just generated a proposal. So I'm really, really happy for that. Just generated a proposal and it came on very, very good from background to the reference. Nice one. So thank you, Prof, for that.
You're welcome.
Then on today's topic, so I want to start a survey. I saw two things. The first one here is cross-sectional study and longitudinal study. So I just want to know which one should I go for? Is it a cross-sectional study or the longitudinal study? Or I should just get started?
Just get started. But
okay.
Ultimately, right, it's going to depend on what you are doing. So some of these questions are, you're the only one who can answer them, right?
Okay.
You're the only one who knows what you want to do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So
okay.
As long as you know what it is. So longitudinal study means there's follow-up. Cross-sectional study means that's a one-time data collection.
Okay. Okay. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay. Lungile, we're all set.
It looks like it.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for attending, and we will see you shortly.
We'll see you tomorrow, starting a new workshop, new series. Please invite your students, especially if you're a lecturer. So that's scientific writing, but everyone is definitely welcome tomorrow at 5 p.m. West African time. please join us. So that's in the evening. Those are our usual Friday sessions. But now that we're done with flyer link, yeah, sure. Now that we're done with the literature reviews, we are now starting a new series, scientific writing and publishing. Yeah, it's a great one. It's an exciting one. We all write. No one will be asking about whether it's related to their field. So that's great. It's generalized. Do join us tomorrow. I'm looking for the flyer. Sorry, just a second. But I had it handy somewhere. It is. So just a second as I check. So thank you so much, Prof. Agaku. You can leave while I take care of this. Is he gone? Mhm. All right, there we go. So that's for the next 5 weeks. So that's the registration link. Yeah, please share with anyone in your network who may benefit. Not too late, Prof. Aina, you can start completing the questionnaire today and we'll get your details and send you a certificate. Well, in December. Well done, great. And if anyone else has not been completing, please complete the survey. You're not obliged to provide feedback, but of course we always want to know how we can improve our sessions, but definitely we need your name and your email address for your certificate. So yeah, thank you so much. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm going to end it here. Hope you all have everything you need. Repost the attendance link. Okay. Yeah, Clement, you will see it every week. We always post it every week. Clementina or Clementina. Sorry for messing up your spelling. Oh, I haven't.